Next up, we have Pittsburgh Steelers 16, Cincinnati Bengals 10. Steelers somehow moved to 7-4. They feel like a 2-win team, and yet somehow are 7-4. While the Bengals are 5-6. That's scary. Is it possible the Bengals and Bills both missed the playoffs? Go figure. So back to our previous quarterback conversation. Kenny Pickett and Jake Browning. That's proving my point. Kenny Pickett actually looked better. He had 278, somehow no touchdowns. So despite the fact that he probably had his best game, the best game of his career, he was still fantasy football poison. Jake Browning had 227 yards and a touchdown and an interception, also equally bad. He has no ability to throw a long ball. I think at this point, I'm going to say the unpopular opinion here and say that Najee Harris is the RB1 in Pittsburgh. And I'm going to keep taking him over Jaylen Warren because, excuse me, this Jaylen Warren thing doesn't seem to be happening. They're pretty damn stubborn and sticking with Najee. He had 15 carries for 99 and a touchdown. Warren had 13 for 49 and lost a fumble. So while they're getting equal usage almost, Najee's been better. Mixon had 8 carries for 16 yards. That's impressive. Saved his day, kind of, with 2 catches for 44 yards. Not great. Moving on to the receivers who are also not great, except for maybe Chase. Chase had 4 for 81. No touchdowns, just some long catches, it looks like, for bonuses. Tyler Boyd had 3 for 23. Trenton Irwin, 1 for 25. Nothing else to see on that side. George Pickens had 3 for 58. Deontay Johnson, 4 for 50. So they're both splitting targets there, it would seem. Not a great day. Tight ends, probably the best tight end performance of the week was Pat Freiermuth on everyone's bench. 9 for 120. We had Drew Sample on the Bengals side go 1 for 11 on and a touchdown to make him useful. Kickers, Boswell was good, put up almost 12 points. McPherson was bad. The Steelers defense were salvageable, and the Bengals defense was not. What's the interesting thing here for you in this? This is kind of indicative. These first 2 games indicate pretty much the entire week. It was messy. Every one of these games was a bloody nightmare.
Yeah, thank you to Pittsburgh for making the call we've been talking about for years and firing Matt Canada. Their offense is actually respectable now, and it's weird how one game after they fire him, they go over 400 yards for the first time in like 3 seasons, basically. Like it's just something Matt Canada could never do in this offense.
It's funny because for the first time they're respectable, and yet, with the exception of Najee, none of them were really startable. Like I guess if you started Warren, Pickens, or Deontay, none of them killed you. Oh, Freiermuth. So it was still only two good games, and I guess it's better than what they normally have. But like Pickett was still completely unusable.
Yeah, it's just because they didn't have any touchdowns. Like that's the issue. If you're averaging over 400 yards of offense, like those touchdowns are going to come. So we'll see what happens next week. I think they're playing. Who they play next week? I think they have a good matchup. They have Arizona. So yeah, like I'm going to be okay streaming Pickett in that matchup because it's wheels up. Like the offense actually can do stuff, so it's amazing. And yeah, back to Najee and Jalen, they legit split like carries. So if you look at the snap counts, it was almost dead even. Najee had a couple more. Routes run is dead even, and targets like Warren had a few more targets, but it's the timeshare like they always talk about. And I love how that tweet earlier in the year was like, or early in the day was like, oh yeah, they're going to focus on getting Warren and Pickens the ball. And they did the exact same thing they've done the entire year where this is just not happening for those guys. So yeah, it's just Deontay's still the wide receiver 1, even though he had that awful video where he just put in 0 effort on one play. So I don't know what was going on that play, but they got some serious divas in Pittsburgh right now, those 2 wide receivers. I'm so about them.
I got a tweet notification that's kind of interesting. Did you see that in whatever this scoring is? Jerome Ford put up 11.9 fantasy points for the 4th week in a row. Exactly 11.9. What are the odds of that?
Wild. It's consistency. He's the king, RB2 king.
Yeah, no kidding. But, I don't even know if that's RB2 numbers. I guess it's not bad, but
we're like back in, probably like running back 24.
Depends on if that was PPR or not. If it's PPR, I don't like that 11.9. No. So
standard, yes.
So both quarterbacks were not good. Jake Browning is not good, and I'm not playing him at all. Kenny Pickett, you're right. I'll probably roll with a bit. I prefer Najee here over Warren, and I think at this point I'm getting to a spot where I'm gonna say Warren over Mixon very soon. Like Mixon's getting the workload, but he just sucks.
Well, the offense is gross with Browning. Like they can't. Chase is the only guy you're gonna be able to start like each week, and even with him, like the floor is low. But back to Freiermuth. So they said if the Cincinnati showed the cover too high look, they were going to go to Freiermuth early and often in this game, and that's what they did. So like this seems more of like a game script dependent game than it is like a one-off where Freiermuth's like the king of targets and all that. So just keep in mind it was because they ran a lot of cover two, and like tight ends, they work well against cover two. So I think that's the main reason why Freiermuth was so involved in this. But congrats to the OC for making the changes and feeding Freiermuth when it worked very well for him. So, good job for them.
Oh, sorry. I'm trying to adjust my camera here. I wanted to sit back in my chair. My knee's bothering me, but my camera and my background are not cooperating. So
I
was like, oh, I want to lay back so I can kind of stretch out and rest my knee here. It's bothering me. And then I went back like this and I disappeared into my background. So I'm like, guess not. So
just nobody.
Yeah. Who would have thought that in week 13, the Steelers would have more fantasy relevant options than the Bengals?
Yeah, like I don't really want to start mixing. I don't want to touch Boyd, and like it's just Chase. Like that's all, which is awful. Like the offense was so good going in the year too. It's like, man, they can't do anything.
Yeah, that's truly horrific. It's just absolutely terrifying.
Yep.